workshop is being set up so that you can start thinking about how to become a better writer. So, just to start off with, I want you in pairs or in a group of 3. Can you talk about, first, what makes someone a good writer? And secondly, what do you think makes a good text? So a good story or a good essay? Okay, what are the features in those that make it good?
Now everyone, we're just going to be recapping what makes a good writer. So to start off with, we have vocabulary. Can you just remind me, what are we talking about when we say vocabulary? What do we mean? Words, right? We want to use lots of interesting words, okay, in our writing. Very, very good. Okay, so the more interesting, the more sophisticated words that we use, our writing tends to be a little bit more elevated. Okay, what else do we have? We have using personal experiences. Okay, and in brackets I put authentic. Okay, what does this word authentic mean? Real. See how we've got real here? Now, this is an example of good vocabulary. Okay? Now, why might we want to use personal experiences when we're writing something? Why do we write about something we know? Why? Okay, it can make it very believable, very interesting. Tristan, did you want to add something there, Dan? Oh, yeah, that's all right. So remember, when we're writing something, it can often help to write about something that you have already experienced, because you know what happened, you know how you felt, so you can describe that, okay, in your story. So again, it can make the stories believable and interesting. And the last thing that makes a good writer that you all discussed was grammar and spelling. Okay, so the more complex your sentence structures are, okay, making sure that our punctuation is in the right spot, that's going to make our writing really interesting and easy to read as well. Now, one last thing that Tristan mentioned earlier was structures, and I forgot to write it up. So when we're talking about structures, we're talking about different text types, okay? So Tristan, can you remind me, what are some different text types we might discuss that you have written in your article?
I'm not sure
Expositions are amazing. So in English, as we've already learned throughout the year, there are different types of text types, and they have different structures, don't they? Okay, there's different things that we might put in the introduction. You might use different types of words, okay, and they're always different depending on what text type we're talking about.
That's exactly right, Miss, and that leads really well into the features of a good writing text. So if you'd like to just copy down the bits that are in bold now, and I'm just going to talk about what makes a good text, and that kind of shows you how to construct something that's really easy to understand and it's nice to read for the reader. So it might be a narrative, it might be a reflective piece, or it might be a persuasive piece. So the first thing I want to talk about is vocabulary. You need to be using the right vocabulary related to the type of text that you're using. So would an essay have the same vocabulary as creative writing? Do you think? Different or the same? What do you think, guys? Same or different?
Different.
Yeah, exactly right, Kurt. I think it would be very different because it's a different type of text. That's something you need to think about, which will make more sense as we're talking about the scaffolds. Then I also want you to be focusing on sentences. So basically we've talked a lot about simple and compound sentences, haven't we?
Yeah.
And complex in class. So Miss Broughton has gone through that a lot about grammar. The types of sentences you should be trying to use in your writing are compound and complex sentences. Okay? You also need to be using paragraphs. So write that down, paragraphs. Every time you have a new idea, you need to be taking a new line. So whether it's an essay, whether it's a piece of creative writing, you need to be taking a new line because that helps to organize your writing a little bit better. It's also important that you're using punctuation so that it's easy for the markers to be reading through your work.
Makes
And
it
that,
easier to
yeah,
understand,
exactly, and
doesn't
it's a
it?
key part of English as well. So we need to be using full stops, question marks, quotations. Something that I think a lot of people tend to struggle with is maintaining tenses. So you need to be using first person or third person. So either I or he, she, Dave, like using the third person. Past tense is usually the easiest to write in as well. So thinking like it's happened already and talking about it like that. So I hope you're writing these down. The bits in bold are the most important. Depending on whatever the question is when you're asked to write a text as well, you really need to be thinking about the audience and the purpose. So the audience for a piece of creative writing could be different to the audience for a piece of persuasive writing, depending on what the question is. This will make a little bit more sense a little bit later. And finally, remember, it's okay if you're making mistakes in grammar, spelling, and punctuation. The main thing is that you're giving it a go. So you're making an attempt and you're trying to make your meaning come across. So even if it's not perfect English, if the reader can still make sense of what you mean, that's amazing, isn't it?